The Angel of the Revolution, A Tale of the Coming Terror, by George Griffith, 8th edition, London, Tower Publishing Company Limited, 1894. Chapter 1. At the 11th Hour. Victory! It flies! I am a master of the powers of the air at last! They were strange words to be uttered, as they were, by a pale, haggard, half-starved-looking young fellow in a dingy, comfortless room on the top floor of a South London tenement house. And yet there was a triumphant ring in his voice, and a clear, bright flush on his thin cheeks that spoke at least for his own absolute belief in their truth. Let us see how far he was justified in that belief. To begin at the beginning, Richard Arnold was one of those men whom the world is wont to call dreamers and enthusiasts before they succeed, and heaven-born geniuses and benefactors of humanity afterwards. He was 26, and for nearly 6 years past he had devoted himself, soul and body, to a single idea, to the so far unsolved problem of aerial navigation. This idea had haunted him ever since he had been able to think logically at all. First dimly at school, and then more clearly at college, where he had carried everything before him in mathematics and natural science, until it had at last become a ruling passion that crowded everything else out of his life, and made him, commercially speaking, the most useless of social units, a one-idea'd man whose idea could not be put into working form. He was an orphan with hardly a blood relation in the world. He had started with plenty of friends, mostly made at college, who thought he had a brilliant future before him, and therefore looked upon him as a man whom it might be useful to know. But as time went on, and no results came, these dropped off, and he got to be looked upon as an amiable lunatic, who was wasting his great talents and what money he had on impracticable fancies, when he might have been earning a handsome income if he had stuck to the beaten track and gone in for practical work. The distinctions that he had won at college, and the reputation he had gained as a wonderfully clever chemist and mechanician, had led to several offers of excellent positions in great engineering firms. But to the surprise and disgust of his friends, he had declined them all. No one knew why, for he had kept his secret with almost passionate jealousy of the true enthusiast, and so his refusals were put down to sheer foolishness, and he had become numbered with the geniuses who are failures because they are not practical. When he came of age, he had inherited a couple of £1,000, which had been left in trust to him by his father. Had it not been for those £2,000, he would have been forced to employ his knowledge and his talents conventionally, and would probably have made a fortune. But it was just enough to relieve him from the necessity of earning his living for the time being, and to make it possible for him to devote himself entirely to the realization of his life dream, at any rate until the money was gone. Of course he yielded to the temptation. Nay, he never gave the other course a moment's thought. £2,000 would last him for years, and no one could have persuaded him that with complete leisure, freedom from all other concerns, and money for the necessary experiments, he would not have succeeded long before his capital was exhausted. So he put the money into a bank whence he could draw it out as he chose, and withdrew himself from the world to work out the ideal of his life.